All right, once you get your drawing done on your plastic sheet, you are going to start gridding onto your big white paper. So you should have the same number of squares up and squares side to side as you do on your paper. So we'll just double check. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4 across. 1, 2, 3, 4 across. So your squares will correspond with the square in your drawing. So this square is the same as this one will be the same as this one, and so on. When we are doing this, if you have an uneven amount of squares, so let's say you have an extra square over down here that you don't have on this paper, you will have to scribble out any extra on the other page so that you are able to match it up exactly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to look at our first square. This one has nothing in it. So in this square, we will have nothing in it. On this paper, I made the lines a little bit darker so that you would be able to see them with my drawing, but ideally when you are drawing your picture, your lines would not be this dark. Okay, so then I'm just gonna move to the next square. I can go over, I can go down. Technically, I could start really anywhere. However, you have to really make sure that you are in the correct square. A lot of the times I'll have a student who will do half the page and then they'll realize that they missed a whole row and they'll have to start over. Okay, so if I'm looking at this one, nothing in there. So then I'm gonna move on to my next one right here. When I did the outline, I wanted to do contour and just get kind of the basic shapes. That can sometimes make things tricky. As you can see in here, it's a lot of different organic shapes and not a lot of points to reference how to draw this one in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to break the square down into other sections. You can either do this by drawing it into more sections or by just visually doing this. So that you can kind of see what I'm talking about, I'm gonna actually draw it on here. It's best when you do this to use a ruler or a straight edge. So to me, this looks about the middle. You can actually measure it if you'd like to. So I'm gonna go over. Okay, and then I'm also gonna do up and down. Again, you can just do this visually or you can actually draw it out. Some sections you might not actually need to break it up in your head or on the paper. Like for this one, it's much more simple, so you can just leave that like that. Okay, so if I'm breaking it up, not only do we break it up on here, but you're also going to break it up on the actual grid, and again, draw much lighter than I am drawing. Go over like that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna look at my first square. There's really minimal stuff going on here. So the way to figure out how to draw this, if you can't just kind of guess on it, I'm gonna split this halfway, and I'm gonna kind of look at where that line is from halfway. So if this is halfway, and that's a quarter of the way, it's a little bit to the right of that. So if I come up here, if this is halfway, this is a quarter of the way, it's gonna be a little bit to the right. Okay, then I'm gonna figure out how it is coming down. So if that's halfway, that's a quarter of the way. It's actually about a quarter or half of that. So halfway, a quarter of the way, and half of that. Okay, so I have my points. Now I need to make that line. You can kind of look, so if this is halfway and that's a quarter of the way, that's about as tall as it is. So it comes up to about there. So basically, when you're doing grid drawing like this, you're plotting out your points and then drawing in the lines, okay? So then I'm gonna move to the next one. This one's gonna be easier because I have this line right here already. And then I'm gonna figure out about where that comes in. That's about halfway. So I'm gonna make a mark to plot that. And then it comes up about a third of that halfway mark. So here's halfway, it's about a third of that. and it's to the right about 1/3. Okay, so it's gonna go about there. So I'm gonna plot that. So I'm gonna come up, and then it's gonna swoop down. And go into there. Okay, and I'm gonna move over a little bit and plot that about there. And then now I can use these other shapes that I've already drawn as a reference. I can also do the halfway, quarter of the way, 1/8 of a way, or I can look at what I already have on there, or I can just use both of those methods. Okay, so I'm gonna go and continue and do those two, and then I'm just gonna work my way over, and then I'm gonna do this row down here, then that row down there, until I have my full drawing.